Alright boys and girls, here we are with yet another Greatsword video. This time we're using the Hollowslayer Greatsword. I did use this weapon a while back. It's actually in my first montage video, so I do know how good this sword is. But I decided to dedicate an entire episode to it because if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you know that I've kind of fallen in love with Greatswords. After initially saying that they weren't really that good of a weapon class, I've really come around to them and I've really started to use them a lot more. I know this is going to sound really strange, but for some reason, it just feels like Greatswords are like a safe choice to me now. And this is a weapon that I never really felt comfortable with before, but in Dark Souls 3, they really are, you know, like I've mentioned many times, a jack of all trades but a master of none. So as long as you have decent fundamentals in Dark Souls, I think a Greatsword can serve you quite well. As you can see here, utilizing it against heavy weapons, and technically you could do this against, you know, with any weapon against heavy weapons, but baiting out attacks and going for backstabs with a Greatsword deals a massive amount of damage. I don't know if Greatswords maybe trigger backstab faster than other weapons. It just seems somewhat easier to do it with Greatswords and spears rather than other weapons. Obviously, you know, things like an ultra great sword will be a little bit slower. I've missed lots of backstabs, or you know, got the backstab animation and then not ended up backstabbing my opponent with an ultra weapon. So obviously in those cases where there's clear weapon class differences, there would be a delay in the animation for when you actually can connect with the backstab. But versus smaller weapons, I think that greatswords have the same, you know, like backstab timing. That's what it feels like, at least. And so it makes punishing heavier weapons a lot easier. Not to mention, even if you just land the 2-hit combo on them after dodging, it's going to deal a ton of damage. So in the opening clip, or in the opening message after the Blue Sentinel invasion, I talked a little bit about, you know, this weapon is good for its punishing attacks because the 2-hit combo from this weapon, it is still relatively fast. Like I said, it's not really a master, it's not really super quick like a straight sword or something, but it's still fast enough to punish a lot of attacks. And what's really nice about it, again, not really a master of it, but just, you know, it has it in its arsenal, is the fact that it still does have hyper armor. And you saw in that last clip that I was able to hyper armor through that guy's frost sword and come out on top, right? Again, utilizing that trade mentality that we often use with ultra weapons. So great swords are definitely useful in that regard, and it can be utilized with great effectiveness. Again, if you have good fundamentals in Dark Souls, understand a lot of the mechanics and a lot of the different playstyles or tactics that people utilize, or just, you know, understand movesets of weapons, you can use a greatsword to great advantage. Not to mention they are excellent at countering rushdown. Now here again, you see me contest that guy's katana weapon art, and we still came up with a 2-hit combo on him. So we still have a massive advantage over this guy. Now, using the washing pole, the running attack, obviously, can space us out a bit, but there again, you see, we punish his running attack. So it's not really as OP as people think. You know, I know in my washing pole video, people were saying that, oh, it's so cheap. It's really not. Again, as long as you understand the mechanics and how to counter it, you know how to beat it. Because if this guy's going to try to use the running attack with the washing pole at medium to close range, I know that I'm going to be able to hyper armor through his one quick poke with my 2-hit combo that's going to probably deal 600 to 800, maybe even more points of damage. Now, this last match in the Fight Club here, it was a little bit laggy, but I landed 4 hits in a row on this guy. I didn't even really mean to do that, and I don't really know what really happened there, but that was the closest match out of this entire set. We pulled off a lot of flawless victories with this weapon, and we didn't lose a single match the night we used the Hollowslayer Greatsword. I think we won something like 15, 17 matches. It was absolutely insane. So definitely give this weapon a try if you like greatswords. What is really unique about it is, in comparison to other greatswords have the kind of heavy downward swinging R1. This weapon, it has a little bit more startup, but the downward swing comes out much faster. There you can see the swipe of the swing is so much quicker, and that can kind of add a little bit of psychological, you know, chess game, as I like to call it, to your and your opponent's interactions, especially when you go for trades and go for baits. What's also really useful with this weapon is the two-handed R2 thrust. The delayable thrust is extremely overpowered. Like, I'm expecting From Software to nerf this thing. That's how good I think it is. And why do I think it's good? I mean, there's the one-handed version too. It's also very good. But the reason it's so good is simply for its counter damage. In my Astora Greatsword video that I uploaded a few days ago, I mentioned that I lost one match to a Hollowslayer Greatsword. And the reason I lost that match was because I did my R2 thrust with the Astora's Greatsword and I missed. I mistimed the spacing, and the enemy was also charging up his R2 attack. Because my R2 attack missed and I lunged forward, when he let go of his R2 attack and lunged forward, his ended up hitting me for a counter hit, and he must have been using the Leo ring. He was using heavy armor, so he wasn't using the Flynn ring, I don't think, or if he was, it wasn't giving him any bonus damage. But when he hit me, he took off over or just about 900 points of damage, because my health bar literally went to about half of what it is. And I start off with 1801 health, right? You guys know if you watch any of my build videos, 39 health with the life ring plus 3 and the ring of favor plus 2, 1801 health. Funny side note, I thought I beat that guy right there, so I ended up bowing. But you can see the hyper armor in effect in this specific matchup. Every time this guy went in for an attack on me with that straight sword, I was taking the hit purposely, again going to that trade mentality, because I knew I would hit him for a 2-hit combo. But back to the main point here. So when I was hit with that R2 attack, I took 900 points of damage essentially, and it was so hard for me to come back with an ultra weapon because, like I mentioned at the beginning, you can just roll around and just dodge ultra weapons. You don't have to really, contest them like you do have to with a smaller weapon, because you have to get in close. You have to kind of rely on your speed of your smaller weapon, and one mistake, you're done for, right? With a greatsword, you can kind of wait for your opportune moment and punish at the right time with one single swipe. And while, yes, you can technically do it with a shorter weapon, it's a little bit harder because, again, if the enemy keeps on swinging, you have to kind of guess if they're going to hit you out of your attack, even though you connect with them. With a great sword like this, you actually have a chance to hyper armor through and still connect with your 2 hits. Even if you do take a trade, or even if you knock your opponent out, you're still going to come out with your damage. And hopefully that makes sense to a lot of you, but it is extremely effective. So I think we pulled off a few flawlesses already, but check out what's going to happen here. The weapon art and the recovery time for this weapon is actually really, really good. This guy thought he could punish me from my missed weapon art, but we just followed up with an R1 and smacked him down for another flawless victory out of the weapon art from the Onakiri. Absolutely insane. And that is also what I think, again, I'm not really too much focused on the frame data. I'm more focused on the practical side of things, how it works in PvP for the general Pontiff area. Because this weapon has that unique R1 where you kind of slash down really fast, it has the, a bit longer of a startup, but it seems easier to kind of bait opponents into attacking you, or make enemies think that they can punish you a little bit quicker, but you actually recover from that downward swing quite fast. And whether it's the same amount of time to launch your attack with other greatswords, with this specific greatsword, because this weapon seemingly has more of a startup on its startup animation than other greatswords, because in other greatswords the downward swing is kind of just one fluid motion down. With this weapon, you're starting up and then you're swinging down really fast. And as a result, when that downward swing is done, you actually have not nearly as much recovery time as you would think in order to set up your second attack or roll away or follow up with a weapon art, and vice versa. After the weapon art, you saw me follow up with the R1 attack quite fast and knock that guy out of his weapon art before it could even have its hyper armor frames or get its, damage through on me. So it is extremely effective. And the weapon art, the stance, excellent tool to throw it at close range. It's usually pretty good at catching rolls or punishing enemy attacks. We've done it a few times, but we don't do it too much in this match. This guy was actually just playing the dodge game really heavily, being a heavy caster. And I wasn't going to include this clip, but I thought it was kind of interesting since he was using dual... sorry, kind of lost my voice there. Using dual staffs, I thought I would include it. So that is pretty much the video, though, guys. Let me know what you think. The weapon, extremely, extremely good. The running R1 attack is also amazing for greatswords. The hitbox on it is insane, and you can do a lot of tricks shimmying around opponents, like running in a circle and then running at them at medium to close range. And enemies usually won't react fast enough, or if they do, they try to just move out of the way, but the hitbox is so wide that you end up catching them anyways, unless they roll perfectly, which at a medium to close range, they usually don't see the attack coming as quickly and don't roll as fast. So overall, this weapon probably, once again, just an amazing greatsword, just like I've been saying about pretty much every greatsword, but this one in particular has some unique properties. And there again, you can see the horizontal space control from the one-handed R1s, amazing at catching rolls as well, just covering that horizontal space. But that is the video, guys. If you liked it, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more Dark Souls content, or just check it out for more Dark Souls videos as well. If you enjoyed this analysis, thank you so much again. Quantum is out.